What is up, everyone, and welcome to the Game Week 2 deadline stream. Guys, before we kind of get into the stream today, I'll probably just check all my systems are working. My mic is working this time around because last time we had a lot of issue in terms of the mic. Anyways, what is up, everyone? How are you doing? How are you feeling? Are you ready for Game Week 2? How was your first game week? Is your team ready? What are you planning in terms of transfers? I know there's not a lot in terms of going for certain players, going for transfers, and all of that stuff, of course, is just 1 week of information, is just 1 week of data that we have, 1 week of eye test. So can't really decide a lot in terms of if there's certain players or not to go for. But yeah, I mean, if you have done that Kane to Haaland switch, I think it was really really good because you probably would have saved that price rise happening and the Kane price drop happening. I think that was a very essential move to do it very early in the week. But of course, even if you've not done that so far, or if you've kind of missed the price rise and the price fall, I think it's absolutely fine because I mean you can still kind of get in Kane or kind of take out Kane and then start with Haaland. Haaland is also a great captaincy option this week, and I think it's going to be a close one this time. I don't think so. It's that close. I mean, it's that obvious in terms of captaincy because the way Haaland played against West Ham, I think that was really really important for all of us to see because that might be an indication of what's going to come in the future, right? And I think Man City looked really really good. Of course, you can say that maybe West Ham kind of let them play and they weren't really up for it, but I think Man City have already started playing to Haaland's strength, and I think that is going to be very crucial. So I think overall it's gonna be an interesting week. Personally, I have not done anything with my team. I've hardly made any changes. Of course, there were a lot of thoughts in terms of which players to kind of go for. Whether you should replace your 8 million midfielders. I know a lot of people have kind of got into that dilemma in terms of whether we should kind of take chances on a Man City mid, which of course it could be a very risky move as well because we still don't know what's going to happen with Man City. I mean, Man City of course can still play Mahrez on the right, and they can still play maybe Alvarez starts. I mean, right now who knows what's going to happen, right? From early signs, early indications, of course, we can see or we can probably have an understanding that Foden is looking a little bit more versatile than the other options, especially when these wingers are going to stretch the width. They're going to play out very wide, and that's going to create a lot of space for KDB and Haaland to run. And so, whether they're going to be really crucial or really great FPL options or FPL picks, I mean, God only knows what's going to happen there. But I mean, it's a bit of a risk to be very very honest. I think you probably are better off saving one transfer, getting in more info. I think more than saving this transfer, I think it's also important to get more information because right now we don't really have a lot of information. We just have 1 week of information and we can just act on that. And I think it's a wise move. I mean, we don't really have to transfer in a particular player or start making a lot of transfers to get in players because I mean we anything can happen, right? I mean, so I think it's important to kind of see the games this week as well, have a little better understanding in terms of what can happen, and then probably start making calls because I think a lot of wildcards will also be active from game week 3. I think a lot of people started panicking, and I mean, it's absolutely fine if you didn't get a good score in game week 1. 1 million, 2 million, 3. I've seen teams, who are 6 or 7 million at the moment because they probably went for Kane. They probably didn't go for Kulusevski. They didn't have Zinchenko. They maybe didn't even have a Salah, for example. But it's absolutely fine. I mean, it's a long season. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. So you probably will be okay in the coming weeks, and I think it should be fine. Hello to Ansh. Hello to you. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're excited. I hope you're excited for the weekend as well. A lot of games. Chelsea has a really, really important game. And I think it'll be interesting to see what Chelsea does. So I hope you're ready for that. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you for checking on me. Any news on City from press conference, Foden, Mahrez, or Grealish? I mean, there weren't really any clear-cut indications in terms of who's going to start. But we'll quickly check if we have anything on leaked lineups or anything like that. But I mean, there weren't really any indications in terms of, of course, he mentioned about Calvin Phillips that he still has some niggles. Palmer has a knock, but I mean, other than that, it was not anything that probably we can kind of take from that press conference. So yeah, I mean, I right now it's very difficult to predict who's gonna start. I'm still expecting Foden to probably start on the right, Grealish to probably start on the left because that combination is. I mean, I can't really say it as a combination because Foden hasn't really played any preseason, so we still don't know what's going to happen there. But I think there are chances. I mean, there are high chances that the same lineup kind of takes place in this game as well. And then we have Mahrez probably coming on for the last 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, because I think Mahrez has a role to play this season. Now, what that role is going to be, I mean, I'm not sure. And Ansh, as you mentioning, I also read on a couple of Man City forums that Mahrez is going to start. But I mean, until unless we really have certain information from a very reliable source, it's kind of difficult to predict what Pep is going to do. I mean, it's actually quite tricky to second guess him. So I mean, it's just kind of very simple in terms of, let's say, if you have a Mares, for example, if you have a Foden, for example, I think it's better to keep these options for this week. I mean, it'll be kind of foolish to, take them out and start switching between themselves because you really don't know what's going to happen there, right? So if you get Mares, for example, because probably Mares is going to start, and if Foden starts, for example, with Grealish, so that transfer is kind of really a waste, right? Because then next week you'll again be scrambling to understand or to see what's going to happen, and then you'll make the switch again. So I mean, whatever Man City players, a Man City mid specifically, if you have, I mean, just hold them this week. I think that's the more optimal play here. Don't really see any sense of getting in a Foden or getting in a Mares this week because it's going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be tricky. So let's see. I mean, right now again, we'll still keep an eye on in terms of any news, any kind of transfer. I mean, any kind of leak lineups that we have. We might get something on Villa Everton. Let's see if that happens. But yeah, you can also kind of keep me updated if you come across anything. Do let us know in the chat. Do let us know in the comments as well. And I think we'll go from there. Hey Brian, hello to you. Welcome to the stream. Krishav, hello to you as well. What are your thoughts about the next game week? About changes in your team? I mean, right now it's quite fluid. It's quite open. If I talk about game week 3 at the moment, the team is still looking in decent shape. Of course, I have Bailey, who's probably going to be an issue because we still don't know what's going to happen. I mean, Bailey might start one more week, but the fixtures are now getting trickier for Aston Villa. I think this week also it's not that straightforward a fixture. I mean, Everton look like they're going to play a back three. They also have Cody in their team now. So, yes, they have had a couple of injuries, but I mean, I still feel that they're going to be decent in defense. And I mean, probably none of us expected Everton to be, that defensive against Chelsea. Maybe we all expected to kind of ex- Everton expressing themselves a little bit, but right now it's quite clear that they don't have a striker. They don't have a number 9, right? So, and I think scoring goals for Everton is going to be a problem. But in general, I think Bailey, yes, definitely one to, I'm looking at Bailey very closely. I think I'm good with Martinelli. I'm good with Salah. Mount is another one. I think this is a very important week for Mount as well. Um, and there are chances that we could probably jump on a different 8 million player. Let's say if Kulusevski is doing really well this week as well, it's going to be a tough fixture, right? But if he does really well, I mean, I think Mount to Kulusevski is probably going to be an easier move. Currently, I'm a little bit lucky because I have some money in the bank, so I can easily make that transfer. And I don't think so. The price sizes are going to be that high that I might not be able to, get Kulusevski in my team. So there are options, but yeah, I think Mount and Bailey are kind of two players I'm looking at very closely in terms of transferring them out. I think the rest of the team still looks pretty okay. I'm not going to make a keeper change just yet. Maybe on a wild card if we understand or we get certain information that you know uh, I mean if there's certain better options, we'll probably go for it. Man City mid, Ansh, I mean, yeah, I think if not Kulu, I mean, if Kulu is really, really good, then I think it'll be tough to not go for him because his ownership is going to spike. The fixtures are actually getting a lot better now. I mean, Wolves, Forest, I think they're going to be good fixtures. Even West Ham, probably going to be a tough fixture. Then they have Fulham, Man City, Leicester. So it's mixed. It's not that straightforward. But if Spurs kind of come out of the block, all cylinders firing. I mean, there are chances that we can go Kulu. If not, then probably a Man City mid is another option because I know a lot of people are now doubling up on the defense because they feel defense is probably a lot safer at the moment, which is kind of true because you have a Walker, for example, you have a Diaz, for example. Apart from, let's say, I mean, I'm assuming a lot of people already own Cancelo. If not Cancelo, then they have, someone like an Edison example as well, like Cancelo plus Edison. So it's gonna be a bit tricky in terms of which Man City mid to go for. I mean, I'm not really sure how much information or how much can we take from one game week in terms of Man City mids. I mean, I mean, in general, you need at least 6, 7, 8 weeks to kind of draw out patterns and then start planning your wild cards. Let's say if it's an early wild card, it's a different thing, but you need certain patterns, you need certain things to kind of pick on in terms of structure, in terms of how Man City is playing. I think a couple of games as well probably will give us a better idea, because when Man City is playing against lower block teams who are going to defend deep, right? It'll be interesting to see what position Haaland takes, or is KDB really playing, as a second striker, or maybe he's playing deeper against the tougher oppositions as we've seen. So I think uh, definitely keeping a close eye on Man City, their lineup, their structure, and how they're playing this week, because I think Bournemouth are definitely going to. I don't really expect Bournemouth to come out, all cylinders firing. Someone like a Fulham, for example, I think they're going to sit deep. I think they're going to defend as well. And if Man City score a goal in the first 10, 15 minutes, I mean, it could be a long, long day for, Bournemouth. So I think it's, I mean, there are options for sure. But yeah, we need more information, right? I mean, the underlying theme for this week, as I said in one of my videos as well, it's just to kind of see what data, what information, what patterns, what structures we can, get from these games, because 1 week is really, really less, or short to just start making decisions, because probably you're not making decisions right now for an early wildcard, right? So if you are not wildcarding, let's say in game week 3 or game week 4, then you're probably looking at transfers at least for a slightly shorter term, right? At least for the next 2, 3, maybe 4 game weeks. So, but you still need some information there. But yeah, anyways, we'll see what happens. But I think it's going to be interesting, because this year, considering how FPL has done their prices, how many options are there, how many 8 million midfielders are there, I think there are a lot of picks to kind of go for. So let's see. Uh, let's go deadline stream. Excited, super super excited to you know kind of have another game week, another week of football, because was really looking very closely at teams in game week one, and in fact there were some really really good fixtures as well. Most of the top teams, apart from of course Man United, they looked really good. uh Maybe no, can't really say they were they were all playing really really well, because I think it's going to take some time for a lot of players, a lot of teams to kind of get their systems right, a lot of players also to kind of get to that fitness levels which which they can sustain over a longer period of time, which will actually lead to them playing in their best form, right? So but yeah, some interesting results as well. United lost, of course, 2-1, so that was a bit disappointing. I mean, of course, it'll be stupid to just see or just expect United to just go absolutely crazy because they have a new manager. But yeah, I mean, they should at least have that fight in them, which probably was not there last season. But yeah, I mean, it's too early again to just kind of get that sense from one game week. But yeah, I mean, there are serious, serious problems at the club. It's just not the manager, it's just not the player. It's so much going on behind those closed doors. And I think, yeah, it's going to be a tough season, maybe. Opinions when playing Pereira over Trippier? I think Trippier has decent clean sheet potential this week. I mean, Brighton are not really known for scoring a lot of goals. Yes, they're a tighter defense, but I mean, they're not really known for scoring goals. Having said that, they can still score, right? And I mean, Trippier, if he loses the clean sheet, yes, there is attacking potential, but I mean, we're not certain of a goal. Of course, he can take free kicks, he can be on set pieces, he will be on set pieces. But I mean, it's gonna be tricky. I think Pereira, just by the fact that he's playing a lot more further advanced. Of course, a lot of people are talking about Pereira's attacking threat and all of that stuff, but if we see his heat maps and touch maps, right? I think he just had 2 or 3 touches in the box for Liverpool. Of course, it's Liverpool, and it's not going to be Liverpool every week. But I think, yeah, I mean, if I probably have to go for one right now, I'll probably go Pereira, just by the fact that he's playing a lot more advanced. He's also going to be on set pieces. He's definitely going to play as that number 10 in that number 10 role, and I think the fixtures is there because Fulham, they looked a bit leaky. They were conceding, a lot of plays. They were conceding chances, and if they play a back four, I'm still not very convinced when Wolves go to a back four, because one reason is that the attacking threat of those fullbacks or wing backs in the system, or it generally reduces, and they've generally not been that compact when they've played a back four, right? So I'm a little worried for Fulham, not Fulham, Wolves as well, because I mean there are chances that this game could be decent scoring for Fulham, because Fulham has generally been a decently attacking team. I mean, in the championship as well, they were really really attacking. they had the most number of goals. Mitrovic had an excellent season. So I think I'll definitely go Pereira over Trippier for this one. Excited for our Martinelli. I mean, yeah, really excited for our Martinelli pick. I mean, looks like a good differential. I'm not even sure if he's a differential anymore because his ownership would have spiked a lot. Let's see how much his ownership is. Yeah, Martinelli has had a price rise. He's 26.9, almost 27% ownership, and that's quite high, right? So yeah, but yeah, I mean he's gonna be a high value player. Let's see if he what kind of price rises he gets because I mean if he really has a good season, he could be an 8 million, absolutely 8 million player next season. But yeah, for the time being, in terms of whenever till the time we can take advantage of that, let's do that. But yeah, keeping a close eye on Lingard as well. And you're right. I think if we get Lingard in decent form, and if he could, we know that he's gonna play an attacking role for Forest, and I think he could be that engine that really drives them forward. So if he could replicate even some of the form that he had for West Ham, I mean, he could be a great option. But yeah, right now it's quite open in that category. To be very honest, I'm looking at Leeds players as well. You have Harrison, you have Aronson, you have Rodrigo as well, who has a slightly higher goal threat than the other two. So there could be some options there as well. I think let's see. I think it's gonna be interesting. Thinking about Robertson to Perisic, have you already have Trent and potentially upgrade other players. I mean, Robertson to Perisic, it's a slightly risky move because Perisic might not start this week. He might even start this week because it's Chelsea, and Conte might need that experience. But I just feel that he's still not fit enough to start games. I might be wrong, but till the time we don't see that guarantee that Perez is starting, it's gonna be a risky option. I mean, I won't say that it's a very straightforward transfer because Robertson is gonna give you minutes. Liverpool are not gonna be that woeful every game. I mean, that's the expectation. Yeah, but with Thiago out, their defensive worries could start cropping up now. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they kind of cope up without Thiago. But yeah, I mean, if Perisic is even slightly nailed right, I mean, he's one player that could give you either 15, 20 points, or he'll probably just blank. I mean, someone like a James, for example, right? We all saw that from James last season, where he was giving us those 15, 20 points, and then he was also kind of planking, maybe coming off the bench, giving us a single pointer, having those yellow cards and not giving any points. So I mean, I think it's probably gonna be somewhat similar to that. But yeah, I mean, he has really good potential. It also kind of depends on what are the upgrades that you're trying to make, right? I mean, yes, Robertson to Perisic gives you some decent money. I mean, but what do you do with that money? I think that's also going to be very important. Salah's going to do so well, so good for some reason. I mean, yeah, I mean he has a good record against Crystal Palace. I've seen so many narratives going on Twitter where people are saying that he never scores in game week 2. I mean, it's somewhat similar to that stat where Kane never scores in August. I mean, it could still happen this year as well. But I mean, it's not that Kane doesn't want to score in August, right? Or he has something against August. It doesn't work like that. So similarly, I mean, it's not that Salah knows that it's game week 2 and he's probably not going to score. I mean, it absolutely can happen because he has a really good record against Palace. It's at home. It's going to be the first game, and I think Liverpool would want to start strong. They've already had I mean, they kind of had a shocker last game week against Fulham because they probably were a bit arrogant in their approach. They weren't really expecting Fulham to come out at them so strongly, and I think Klopp would want to correct those mistakes, even if there's some sort of lethargy in there, right? I mean, Klopp would definitely want to work on that, and I think what better occasion to do that in front, rather than not doing it in front of your fans. So I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a good game. I still prefer Haaland as a pick this week. Haaland as a captaincy option this week, but I mean, he could absolutely be, slaughtered by a Salah. I mean, there are chances that that can happen. I know a lot of people would still be going with the Haaland captaincy, but yeah, I mean, I think Salah's going to do well. Bench order: Pereira, Patterson, Archer, and Team Saka. Hope he does well. I mean, yeah, Saka looked a bit withdrawn last game week, but I think we should probably again. So that's what I'm saying, right? It is not fair to kind of just read 1 week of information because Saka was playing in a withdrawn role. Yes, he did. He was fortunate enough to get that assist for that own goal. But again, not every week Saka would be facing somebody like like a Zaha on that side, on that wing. And I think it was more tactical than anything because Arsenal were kind of struggling, and Crystal Palace were creating chances. I mean, they weren't able to finish, but yeah, I mean, Crystal Palace should have scored, and I think the Arsenal team, Ramsdale owners, Gabriel owners like me, somebody who had a Zinchenko, for example, who had a massive haul. I think we were all pretty lucky to get that Arsenal clean sheet. But yeah, I think Saka's also going to do well. I mean, the early signs in pre-seasons were also very promising. We saw a lot of combinations, a lot of plays where the likes of Saka, Jesus, and Martinelli were combining really well. Even Nketiah had an absolutely crazy preseason. So there are very good signs for the Arsenal attack, and I think Saka is going to be a huge part of it. I know a lot of people are saying that he might be on pens, he might not be on pens. I mean, we still don't know what's going to happen there, but I have a feeling that Saka's, he's still going to have a good season. How long will it take you to move from Jesus to Mitrovic if Jesus keeps planking? I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a tricky one. I think probably a couple of more weeks, 2 or 3, because Arsenal have decent fixtures, right? There are a lot of times where new signings take time to gel into the system. Of course, we've not seen that with the Jesus because his preseason form was electric. He also looked quite good in the first game against Palace, right? So at least I would want to give him till game week 4 or 5, where he has Fulham and Aston Villa. Then it's probably gonna get a little trickier because I mean it's United. Of course, it's United, so he can probably even score against United. I mean, he might be just blanking all the time, and then he comes up and scores a hat trick against United. That can easily happen. But yeah, it's Everton, Brentford, then Tottenham, Liverpool, Leeds, Man City. So I think definitely game week 5. And if he still blanks, I mean, more than the blanks, I think it's the performance, because if he's getting into dangerous positions, if he's creating chances, if he's probably even getting chances, so I think he's still a decent hold, I would say. But yeah, I mean, there could be price falls as well if he blanks this week as well. I think his there are a lot of owners that probably will take him out and get somebody like a Nunes, for example. If they have some money, maybe they'll take some hits, etc. But at least till game week 5 is what I'm looking at in terms of having that Jesus understanding, or at least trying to keep him in my team. So, but let's see. What are your thoughts on Robertson versus Nunes from game week 3? I think if game week this week as well, I mean, there are chances that Nunes could start this week as well. But if he starts and if he really, really does well, then I think these are early signs that probably it should be okay to move to a Nunes rather than a Robertson. Right now, again, it's just 1 week of information. Whatever we can say, Robertson is still going to get those clean sheets, so he's not a bad pick. There are assists in him as well. There would be bonus points if he gets an attacking return. So Robertson doesn't become a bad pick at the end of the day, right? It's just how many minutes is Nunes getting? What is he doing with those minutes? Because even if he's coming off the bench, let's say 30, 40 minutes, and he's scoring a goal, getting a couple of assists and all of that stuff, I think he's still a really, really good asset, right? It'll be interesting to also see Diaz, because I think he's also a part of the conversation. But I mean, if Nunes gives us an idea that he's probably here to stay in our FPL teams or get into our FPL teams, I think it's probably a decent shout to get on him a little earlier than the others, because if Nunes does well this week, I think there will be a lot of transfers for Nunes already, and I think he's already about 20-25% owned, if I'm not wrong. So let's see. I mean, this week it's gonna give us some idea, because Liverpool has good fixtures, and if we get two attackers in the form of a Salah and a Nunes, I think that could be good. I don't think so. If Nunes, there could be a chance that probably Nunes gets out of form or he gets injured or anything can happen, right? So there's also a chance that you can downgrade, because he's already 9 million, and you probably can go to a Mitrovic, for example. So there are outlets that you can go towards, and I think depending on this week, I think we should at least have this dilemma in our thoughts, because it's a very important question. Any Bailey replacements? Thinking about Da Silva, I think with Damsgaard coming in, Damsgaard is signed for Brentford, so I think there are chances that Da Silva probably doesn't get minutes, or maybe Damsgaard is probably getting more of those odd attacking returns, and I think Damsgaard is 5.5, so there is definitely price difference there. But I think Bailey is an interesting price point because he's 5 million. There are not a lot of options in that 5 million price category. We can go to a Neto if we get some idea, or get some inkling that probably he's okay. There's Dewsbury Hall as well. There is Pudence as well. Pudence is 5.5, and that could be an option. If you want to go cheaper, it's tricky right now. I think I mean Almiron, Willock are also options, but then again, game week 3, game week 5, they have tough fixtures. I think it's probably a wait and watch at the moment. I mean, any of these options can crop up, and we could be going for these players. But Da Silva, I'm certainly not very sure of because of the Damsgaard signing. So I think yeah, let's see, let's see. I think Neto could definitely be an option if you know even the Leeds midfielders, right? I know Leeds midfielders, you have Harrison and Rodrigo who are 6 million, so there's a significant price difference. But I think in the 5.5 bracket, even Aronson could be a good pick. I think we should also watch the Leeds game very closely this week because Aronson could be a great shout at 5.5 million. So there are decent options that we can go for. But yeah, I mean Da Silva, not 100% sure. I mean, if you're going for Da Silva, if you don't have Pereira, let's say if you don't have Pereira, I think you do though. In any case, if you didn't have Pereira, I think Pereira is definitely a better option to go for. Should I transfer in Foden for Diaz? I would keep Diaz, to be very honest. I think it's a good fixture. There are chances that he can get an attacking return. None of these players are mostly on set pieces and stuff, so it doesn't really matter there. They won't get penalties. But yeah, Foden is the risk. So if you're okay taking that risk, you take that chance. I mean, it could be Mahrez on the right and Grealish on the left. There are chances there. But yeah, I will. The safer play, the optimal play here is probably to just keep Diaz in this week because it Diaz is probably definitely going to start, right? So you're at least not worried about him not starting. And I think it's just the safer play at the moment. We still don't have enough information to make assessments on what Pep is going to do. So let's see. I mean, it could pay off really, really well because any of those players could haul, but that's again a problem as well, right? Because Man City players have shared attacking returns all over the pitch. So we can't really say that, of course, maybe we can say that for Haaland, it's just 1 week still, but let's see. Definitely risky. Who I think of captaining next week? I think next week there will be. It also depends on what happens this week, right? Liverpool against Man United is definitely going to be a trickier fixture. I mean, Salah could still do well, and we might just be very, very bad. But I think both the fixtures are quite tricky. Man City has Newcastle, so that's also not going to be a very straightforward game. Arsenal could be an interesting shout, and maybe not a lot of people are talking about Arsenal's game week 3 fixture. I mean, against Bournemouth, if Bournemouth are really bad and they get battered by Man City, what's to say that Jesus can't get a hat trick, right? So I think definitely in my thoughts in terms of even going for a Jesus. Yes, it's gonna be a huge differential. Maybe he gets to that point that he's a huge differential in terms of captaincy because mostly players would kind of favor the premium attacker, which is a Salah or a Haaland, for example. But yeah, uh, Chelsea options are okay. I mean, they're not captainable options. They have Leeds again. Leeds are not that leaky. I think Leeds are going to be slightly better in terms of defending, in terms of maybe not conceding those many goals. But tricky to even trust a Mount, right? I mean, haven't really seen much again. Things could change this week. If you had a Tottenham attacker, I think that also could be a very decent shot. I personally don't have one, but if you have someone like a Kane or a Son, worth a shot in my opinion. KDB captain punt over Haaland. I mean, it's slightly risky, but if you don't have Haaland and if you want to captain a Man City player, I think KDB has to be the best option out there. I think in terms of what I feel, I think he's gonna play a lot more advanced. I think there is huge haul potential in KDB as well. We know that he can score goals as well. Whether he does that, considering that Haaland is probably gonna hog all those chances, only time will tell. But I think if you're looking at a differential captain, I think it's a good save. I mean, it's not. I won't really say it's a safe punt, but I think it's a good punt to kind of go for. Is this bench order you would go for Trippier, Patterson, Archer? I'm assuming it's for this week. Yeah, I think that should be the bench order. Trippier, Patterson, Archer. Play Pereira or Bailey. I think just because of the fact that Bailey would probably be in a little more advanced position as compared to Pereira, I think that just slightly makes my decision, lean towards Bailey. There have been rumors about whether he starts or not. I think with the Gerrard comments that he mentioned in the press conference, I think there are high chances that Bailey starts this one. And he just, I mean, he played 90 minutes in the last game, right? So that was a bit interesting because were all expecting him to probably play 60-65 minutes and then kind of come off, So I think overall Bailey just looks like the better option, but it's not by much, to be very honest. I think it's quite close, but I personally just feel Bailey's probably the better pick. Will players like Nunes, Diaz, Sterling types making your team this season? Players who are playing well and go slightly under the radar because of this, because the eye catchers. I mean, yeah, definitely Nunes, Diaz, Sterling. I mean, these could be potential options. Absolutely. Is it that the price is a bit tricky, even for Nunes, right? 9 million, considering that a lot of people would be either going for a Haaland or a Kane most of the season. I think a lot of people probably, at least right now, they have Jesus. If Jesus kind of starts blanking or doesn't score enough and all of that stuff, maybe we can either go two directions. We can upgrade to a Nunes or we can downgrade to a Mitrovic, to a Wilson, to maybe a cheaper forward, right? But I think this season's probably going to be a season where we get some money in attack. I don't think so. We're gonna invest very heavily. I think this particular structure would probably remain. I don't think so. We'll go for the likes of Salah plus a KDB. I think it becomes a bit tricky, right? I mean, what's to say that that can't happen? But I think players like Sterling, players like I mean, Diaz is of course not a very tricky price one because we already have a lot of options. But yeah, I mean, these kind of players who probably do a lot better. I mean, someone like a Son as well, right? Son always does really well from an FPL perspective, but how many people do actually go for Son for the almost the entire season? I don't think so. There are a lot of people, right? Son will probably be somebody who will come in your team, who will go out in your team. He's a lot of money as well. So if Tottenham is not firing, I think it becomes a bit tricky. But is just something with him where he does really well, but still he doesn't have a high ownership. And I think it's gonna be something similar with Sterling as well. I think he's at such a tricky price point that of course he would want to have a sort, I mean, I would call him a premium option only, right? Because he's I think he's 10 million. So it's difficult to kind of get the balance right with such a player in your team, because then you'll probably have to make certain downgrades, etc. But if he's firing, why not? I mean, it's important to, again, as I said earlier, right? And I'm kind of repeating myself here, but try to get in as much information as you can, because that will really help you in deciding which players to get on very early. I mean, yes, there will be certain bandwagons and certain players that everybody's going to go for, but I think it's also important to kind of see yourself, which player might be a better option in the coming weeks. And then I think this is going to be one season where if we get on to those players, right, and the time that we get on, and if they really start firing, I think that's going to really springboard your season, and you'll definitely have a stronger season. So, and I think at least in the start, we should probably keep an eye on all of that stuff. Bench Trippier, Bailey, or Neto. If I had to bench one of these three, I'll probably. I mean, it's a tricky one, but I'll still probably bench Bailey or I still feel Trippier should be okay this week. But yeah, I'll probably bench. I'll definitely play Neto over Bailey. So I'll probably bench Bailey. Yeah. You have Haaland, Kane, Jesus, Salah, Martinelli, Bailey, Pereira, Williams, Edison, Martinez, Matip, Botman, Sancho, Ben White. Please suggest changes. I mean, on the looks of it, Haaland, Kane, Jesus. I mean, Kane is somebody that, of course, you can hold, but it just kind of disturbs the balance of the team, right? I mean, I see the forward line is really, really good. You have Salah, Martinelli, Bailey, and Pereira as your, playing four. Then you have Williams, Martinez, Matip, Botman. I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot of money on the bench as well. I Matip is probably not going to start, so I'm not sure he's a long term hold or not. This team doesn't have a Trent. This team doesn't have a Robertson. This team doesn't have a Cancelo. So there are certain changes. I mean, but if this is the way you want to play, it's absolutely fine. Botman is also a slightly risky option. I don't think so. He starts. Sancho is another one who's a bit risky. I mean, we still don't know about United's prospects. Martinez didn't look convincing at all. There were certain times where he was really passing the ball really well, but I don't think so he has the physicality or the structure to play as a center back. So it's a tricky one. I like the Haaland, Kane, Jesus picks, Salah, Martinelli, Bay, and even Pereira is a decent option. Nico Williams is a 4 million pick is decent. Edison to start is good. It's just just these options, right? Matip, Botman, I think, and Martinez. I think these are tricky options, and I'd probably want to change these first than anything else. I think Botman is not injured, so he might just start. We don't know that. I think Martinez starts. So if you're just looking at one transfer, I'll probably take out Matip and get in somebody else. Maybe an Arsenal. I mean, you have Ben White, but maybe a different defender. Maybe even a Trippier, for example, or just see out this week because you have a bench to kind of help you in case if any players don't start, and if you feel that you're really off from the team that you probably want, I think then use the wild card in game week 3. This team might need a early wild card considering that there are some options that you might want to change. I still have Kane. Should I take -4 for Haaland or just free transfer for Nunez? I mean, I personally don't have Salah as well, as I have both Son and KDB. I think KDB plus Haaland could be a great combination. I don't think so. A lot of people would have that. Um, yeah, I'm not very sold on. I mean, Nunez I think is gonna do well, but I still want to give it some more time. So I'll probably not do the Nunez move right now. I think Haaland is a good option. I think he's definitely gonna outscore Salah in terms of the ownership, at least. I mean, right now we can just talk about ownership because we don't know anything about the games. But I think going without Haaland is probably going to be a bit risky. Even if it's for a -4, I don't mind, and I've said this a lot already this week, that you're going to definitely mitigate those losses. You're definitely going to, you are having a premium player, a good captaincy option as well, and just see how many weeks are you going to captain Haaland. If it's not much, if you feel that you probably want to go for a Nunez or you want to take a chance with Nunez, then I think, you know, yeah, that could also, I mean, that could be an option, but I would still say Haaland is the play here. If and only if, but just imagine, I mean, Aubameyang joining Chelsea is gonna be really, really interesting, right? Because I think it'll be a very weird situation for Arsenal fans because I don't know what's gonna happen there, but there will be a lot of, a lot of, I can't even say problems, but I mean, they would definitely start hating Aubameyang, especially the way he's left the club and whatever happened at the end. I don't think so there'll be a lot of love left there, but yeah, I mean, it'll be really interesting. Let's see. FPL managers might retire playing. I mean, FPL really becomes interesting when we have a lot of decisions to make, right? And it really makes us happy when we get the right decision. It really spoils our sleep at night if we get that wrong decision. So I think the more number of dilemmas we have, I think the better it is. And I think it's a more enriching experience rather than just captaining Salah every week in week out, going for the same set of players. I mean, what's the fun in that? Chance of Haaland playing only 45 minutes. Of course, I think he could be hooked off. But yeah, I still feel that he plays 60 odd minutes. I don't think so he'll be coming off at 45. But yeah, as I said earlier, right? If City are really winning maybe 3 or 4 goals, there's a chance that that could happen. Mount plans. I'm gonna see Mount for this week. I know it's probably not the best fixture to see Mount because it's Tottenham. I think Conte is gonna be tight at the back. Uh, but I think this is more important from a positioning point of view, where I see how Chelsea are in transitions, how Chelsea are in attack, and how involved is Mount. Right? How wide is he playing? Is he coming in? Is he getting himself involved, or is he just being isolated in game? So I think that's my takeaway from this fixture. And if I don't see enough again, then I'll probably move on to somebody like a Kulisevsky, maybe even a Man City mid. I think those are two directions that I'm looking at. I don't need to go for Madison just yet. I can get him from game week 6 when the fixtures for Leicester are really good. I don't really have to go for a Saka. I can't, in fact, because I already have 3 Arsenal players, and I think Martinelli is good enough to cover Saka. So yeah, I mean, it's Man City mids and Kulusevski. I think these are the two options that I'm looking at the moment. But yeah, I mean, maybe we get more information this week, more idea, and then things can change. Nigel, hey, hello to you. I'm late. Sure. Welcome to the stream. I'm thinking Gundo, Foden for Sancho. Gundogan or Foden, one of them for Sancho, or Matip to Walker. I mean, Sancho is still. Matip is, I think, not going to start this one, and I think Matip to Walker looks okay. Right till the time, Man City haven't really signed a fullback. I think Walker should be okay, and I think that might be the case this season. Of course, we still don't know that, but I think matter to Walker should be okay. Nathan Ake looks like he probably will play, but again, when someone like a Stones or a Laporte they return into the frame into the 11, then what's going to happen with Nathan Ake? Is he going to shift to the right and Walker maybe gets to the bench? Could be a chance, but yeah, I mean the more attacking move is of course to go Foden. I would still say right now it's Foden. Till the time Bernardo Silva doesn't really shift a move to a Barcelona, who's I don't know how they're buying players and all that stuff. They're still able to register players, by the way. But anyways, like if Bernardo Silva moves out of City, then I think Gundogan becomes a really good option because Pep likes to play with that runner in midfield who makes those late runs, and that's how Gundogan has gotten a lot of goals. So I think that'll be really interesting because if he leaves, I think Gundogan becomes a really, really tempting option. But right now, it's probably going to be Foden. I feel, and I personally feel that Foden's probably the better option out of all Foden, Mahrez, and Grealish because he's probably going to get more minutes. But yeah, if you just have to make an immediate transfer or very, very short term, I think Walker is probably the better one to go for. It's more safer, I think. Foden is still at the risk of rotation, and Sancho, if he's fine, I mean, if he's fit enough, I don't think so. He's going to be benched, right? So he could still be a decent option. Foden to Kulu, not this week. If you have Foden, you keep him. I mean, if you got Foden, you got him with a plan. Getting in Kulusevski, I know he can still do. I mean, Kulusevski could still do well against Chelsea, but I still don't understand the appeal of Kulusevski, and I think he's probably had a lot of transfers. I mean, maybe more than 300,000. Yeah, I mean, almost 400,000 transfers. Personally, I just don't understand the appeal of that because it's a tricky fixture. It's not that Chelsea are leaking goals left, right, and center. So I mean, he could still do well, but he's just at least in my opinion, he's a better transfer in game week 3. If you have a City mid, you keep him because you got him with a plan. You got him probably keeping in mind this Bournemouth fixture. So I won't make the switch this week. Triple City of Cancelo, Mahrez, and Diaz. Kane over Haaland, the team. What do you suggest? Triple City of Cancelo, I mean Mahrez and Diaz. I mean, I still feel that value if Walker you know, is nailed. I mean, he's probably the better option than Diaz. I mean, you can save that 1 million. Kane over Haaland team. I personally won't do it. Personally won't do it. I mean, if I'm looking at City players, I will definitely say that you have to have an attacker in there. We've seen that Mahrez, when he gets minutes, he generally gets returns. But I mean, you can't really compare a Haaland to a Mahrez, to be very honest. I know it's just 1 week, but I think Haaland is going to be that focal point for Man City. I think a lot of those goals, majority of those goals are going to be scored by Haaland, and I think the whole team is probably going to play, in terms of setting up Haaland for those goals because we know that he can shoot from distance. We know that he's really good in one-on-one situations. We know that he's a decent player who can head the ball as well. So I personally won't do it. I mean, I would definitely want Haaland as one of the options. If not, at least a KDB. Mahrez doesn't just cut it. To be very honest, Riyad Mahrez, bro. I mean, he's okay this week. There are chances that he could start. A lot of City forums are saying that he'll probably start, but I think if you have him, you keep him. You don't get him in this week. That's absolute certainty. I think it's better to wait and watch in terms of going for a Man City midfielder. But if you already have a Man City midfielder, if you've already taken that bold move of getting a Man City player, I think you just stick with him. Start to Perisic, Bailey or Andres, or sell Perisic to Walker and bench Pereira. Um, I mean, I'm okay selling Perisic to a Walker. Yes, I know the attacking potential is not there. Perisic probably is still a bit risky to to start because first of all it's a tough fixture. Secondly, he might not get that start. Third, I mean he could still be at least a couple of game weeks away from a start. That could also be a possibility. So I'm okay selling Perisic to a Walker and then benching Pereira. I don't think so. It's a bad move, but probably just keep him one more week. See what's happening at Tottenham, and then probably take a call. If I want to start Perisic, Bailey, or Pereira, I mean if I'm not selling Pereira, and if these are the options, I'll probably start Bailey and Pereira. I don't think so. I'll start Perisic, to be very honest, this week. If there's an option between Pereira or Bailey, I think I'll start Bailey, just because the fact that he plays in a much more advanced position. I think he was Villa's best attacker in that game week one fixture, and I think Gerrard still has some confidence in him because of the form that he's shown in preseason. That I mean, yes, there's a chance that he might not start after game week 3, but we'll deal with it later. We'll deal with it when we get to game week 3. For game week 2, I think Bailey is good. Trent, Cancelo, James, Shar, Salah, Saka, Coutinho, Neto, Haaland, Jesus, Ward, Pereira, Williams, Taylor. No money in the bank. Same team in captaincy on Haaland. Pep logic. I know. Hashtag Pep logic. I mean, it'll be really, really weird if Haaland is benched against Bournemouth. I personally don't see it happening. I think Haaland starts in that Man City attack. If Man City is doing really well, I think there's a high chance that he comes off early. But I mean, if they've already done well and if he's gotten some returns, I mean, who are we to complain on that? But yeah, we've seen Pep doing, smashing our FPL teams left, right, and center. We've seen Pep doing Pep things, and it's very, very difficult to, play the Pep roulette. I mean, you will be probably lucky few weeks, but there'll be a lot of weeks where you'll be just devastated by what he's doing with your FPL team, right? So could be a possibility. I mean, it's football and anything can happen, but yeah, let's see. Just when you said last game week, Emerson Royale can't put the ball. I mean, yeah, that's what happens, right? I mean, you see, we all saw what happened last season with Royale. I mean, there was this. I'm forgetting which fixture that was, but there was this one game week where he, I don't know, put in a record number of balls in the box, right? And I don't remember, maybe more than one ball being the accurate ball in that game week. So uh, yeah, I mean, it's just FPL things and what happens in FPL. I think I don't really believe that Emerson Royal all of a sudden becomes a great player. Yes, he probably is gonna improve a lot because they're all kind of working under somebody like a Perisic who has a lot of experience, who is a serial winner, and he's also a really really good player. But yeah, I mean, we could see some improvement. Again, it's too early to say because it's just one game week. But yeah, I think the only I mean, I really like the Tottenham wing backs, but the only problem with them is that which one to go for, right? I mean, a lot of people expected the likes of Doherty and Perisic to be number one. I mean, they could still be number one, but are they gonna start in the coming weeks? Maybe not. Maybe the likes of Doherty and Perisic start in the tougher fixtures. So would you really want those Tottenham wing backs in those tough games? Is also a dilemma that a lot of managers would have. So I think they will become options, but I right now it's just a feeling because in terms of whatever I've seen in terms of 1 week, that it's gonna be a tricky bet to go for these Tottenham wing backs because with the 5 substitution rule, I pretty sure that Perisic is not gonna last 90 minutes for most games, right? Because Conte would want him to be fit and keep him fresh as much as he can. So yeah, I mean, they could be in my thinking, very very honestly, but let's see. It's a very very tricky decision to make because of wholly because of the 5 substitution rule and because Emerson and Sessegnon can still do well, and I think then it'll be a dilemma for Conte as well that if they're playing really well, does he really need to start Doherty or Perisic, or maybe he starts them in the tougher Champions League games or maybe in cup games. So let's see. I think it's too early to say that. Is at least one Spurs necessary from next week? I mean, it's not necessary, to be very honest. I mean, to be very frank, no player is a necessary player, but having one Spurs player won't really hurt your rank a lot. I think depends on how they play against Chelsea as well. I know it's probably a slightly unfair comparison in terms of checking them against a Chelsea team and then probably taking a decision for a against a weaker or a smaller team. But I mean, it could be a chance where we can jump to a Kulisevsky. Maybe I still don't see people jumping from Haaland to Kane if Haaland does really well this week as well. But yeah, I mean, one Spurs player is definitely going to be a bit differential because I don't think so. A lot of people would be having a lot of Spurs assets. I've hardly seen any teams where people have had a couple of Spurs options. A lot of people went with Perisic, but if he doesn't start, or if he starts blanking or keeps blanking or whatever, I think there'll be a lot of sales there as well. So It's not necessary, but I think it's a good thing to have. But yeah, I mean, we still have to see this week and then probably take a call. Holding Kane, rolling transfer, hoping Salah beats Haaland and Kane gets a return. I mean, yeah, it's it's a risky move right now, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's a risky move to keep Kane because that Haaland ownership is definitely skyrocketing. I think his effective ownership is definitely going to be around 160, 170%. I really think that that's going to happen. Now, whether he returns, whether he blanks, I think you'll have to consider yourself very lucky if Haaland blanks and then Kane gets a return. I think I was reading some stat in the last 18 games or so against Chelsea, Kane has only scored 3 goals, right? And they've Tottenham have not won at the Bridge since 2018. So things aren't looking that great in terms of historical data, but I mean we can only look at historical data till a certain level, till a certain point, and I think Tottenham did definitely look a lot better this week, this year, or this particular game week as well in terms of attack. I'm a lot more confident in the Tottenham attack as compared to the Chelsea attack. But then it's again Tottenham attack versus the Chelsea defense, right? And Chelsea defenses are they are not no pushovers. I know that they've had their troubles, their problems, but let's really hope that Kane gets something, and I think it'll be a huge blow to those managers or those players who've done that Kane to Haaland switch. So let's see. Walker for Dallo. I mean, it's not a necessary move to make, but if you don't have anything to do this week, and if you don't think that Dallas probably gonna get clean sheets as well, because I'm still not very convinced about his attacking potential. I mean, not a bad move to be very honest. Salah or Haaland captain, I think it's very close. I am personally gone for Haaland. I think I just feel that Palace are a much better defense than Bournemouth. Of course, we've hardly seen any Bournemouth at all, and we can just speculate in terms of what they were doing in the Championship. But then Championship football is very different from Premier League football, right? So it's probably a lot closer than a lot of people think. Because Salah has a good record against Palace. Salah doesn't score in game week 2. I mean, there's a narrative flying around. Salah's playing at home. His record at home is really good. It's the first home game Klopp has had a. I mean, I would still say that that game result was a shocking result. I mean, Liverpool probably didn't deserve to draw the game. I know I might get some hate there, but I think Fulham really played well. It could be close, but yeah, depends. If you have both, I probably go Haaland because his ownership is gonna be high. So it's a safer option to go for. I think both of them can return. Both of them have a good fixture this week. They're playing at home, but I just feel Haaland is probably gonna be a lot more essential to that Man City attack than a Salah. No way I'm saying that Salah all of a sudden becomes a bad option, considering that we have a Nunez, for example, considering that we also have Diaz, for example. But I just feel that's a bit of an unknown. Whereas I feel that Man City could be playing to Haaland's strength because now they have a number 9, and I think that will probably make him a slightly better option in general. And this week as well, I think against Bournemouth he has a slightly better fixture. So I think it's Haaland. What if Mount and Bailey, the players that we're planning to move, I mean, uh, they do really well. So Mount and Bailey, if they do really well this week, what then? Who goes, who stays, and who comes in for them? If Mount does well, I'm okay holding Mount. I mean, I don't have a problem with Mount. I don't really have to get to a Man City midfielder. I mean, I can see for a couple of more weeks. By the time I'll also get more idea about Mount and how he's doing. And those could be and then probably we'll take a call. But I think Bailey is somebody that I'm probably still not very confident of, because next week it's Palace, right? That's going to be a tough game, and Palace are not an easy defense to break down. So is it at home or is it away? Let's just quickly see that. Bailey is away. So Palace at home are a strong defense, right? Like someone like an Everton, for example. Everton at Goodison are still quite decent. They're just poor travelers. Similarly to what Palace is, right? So that's going to be a tough game. And then Bailey doesn't really have the greatest of fixtures, right? It's West Ham, Arsenal, Man City, Leicester. So there's definitely an option to get out of a Leon Bailey. As I said earlier, there are options in Leeds midfielders. Leeds have recent fixtures, so we can probably target Leeds options. We can even target a Neto or a Podence, depending on whichever is the better pick. We'll still have decent fixtures. Um, we can probably look at a Leicester option, but I'm not. In fact, I would want to say that if I'm looking at a Leicester option, I'll probably just look at Madison. Maybe not Dewsbury Hall as well. At the moment, I know that he got 10 points in the first game, but I think these could be certain options that we kind of look at in terms of a Bailey exit route. But yeah, I'm okay holding Mount because it's not that other options are really really good, or I mean they're really standing out. Of course, if Kulisevsky's done really well this week as well, and if his positioning is also is very promising, then I think irrespective of whether Mount gets a return or not, I think it's a switch to make because the, after a certain point, if Kulisevsky keeps returning, right, we'll start losing a lot of rank. With Mount, that's probably not going to happen because Mount is definitely not gonna go super high. I mean, he could still go high in ownership, but then whatever number of people have Mount still, they'll probably start selling him. So I think Mount to a City mid or yeah, maybe even Kulisevsky is definitely on the cards. I'm rank 4 million. I'm rank 4 million. Kane blank, Haaland Hall would pull me down. I mean, yeah. The opposite could actually skyrocket you. So if Kane scores and Haaland blanks, let's see. It's too early to kind of talk about ranks at the moment. I think when you reach about game week 9, game week 10, maybe game week 12, that is where the ranks then kind of start spreading out. So, I mean, I've seen teams, I've seen people, managers having 6 million, 7 million ranks and then still finishing at a very high rank by the end of the season, right? So, you could lose out on a lot if Haaland, if Haaland does really well. But yeah, if the opposite happens, I think it's gonna be a great week for you. Sanchez, Trent, Robertson, James, Walker, Salah, Bailey, Mount, Martinelli, Haaland captain, Jesus, Ward, Trippier, Pereira, Archer, and you have point 0.5 in the bank, and you're rolling a transfer. I think it's fine. I don't personally. I'm somebody who likes to have a little bit more information. I'm a slightly risk taking manager. I won't say that I'm a maverick manager or I'll just you know uh, try to catch hauls as early as possible. I definitely am not that. But I just feel that right now it's too less information to even take a call on that because you don't know for sure that Foden is going to start absolutely, right? I mean, he's probably a slight favorite to start, but there is no absolute certain that he's going to start. So yes, I understand that it could be a tempting move. It is definitely an aggressive move. I think it's also a risky move because Foden might just blank or he might just be benched, right? So you understand the risk. Uh, and there would be times where you'll probably get starts from Foden where you might get an attacking return, but it's just too early for me to move to a Man City mid. Personally, I would want to do that maybe next week, maybe the week after. But personally, I want more information. But if you're confident that Foden starts and he can probably return, I mean, go for it. Why not? I think Gerrard might become the first one to get sacked this season. I also think so. I think it's probably going to be closer between Gerrard and Lampard. I think one of them is definitely going this season. I think it's probably going to happen before Christmas. Yes, his team plays good, but just in I mean, yeah, Villa has been a very tricky team to predict and understand, right? There have been games where Villa has done really, really well. Where Coutinho was firing last season, where the attack was looking a lot better, where the fullbacks were looking really, really strong. But defensively, I mean, there's still been times where we've not been very, very comfortable with how Villa defend, and I think this could be a tough season for them. I mean, yeah, 20% win ratio or win percentage in 40-45 games is not much. Hey, Stephen, hello to you. Fairly boring game week. Only question for me is would you start Trippier or Pereira? I think I'll start. I mean, I want to start Trippier, but just because Pereira probably plays in a slightly more advanced role, I'll probably play him. But yeah, I mean, you could still go for Trippier because Brighton are again not a team who really score a lot of goals. But yeah, I personally think that Pereira is probably the slightly better option. Haaland to Kane again after August 25th. Well, I mean, yeah, Haaland to Kane could be an option as well because especially when the UCL fixtures come into play, I think Haaland could get rested. He might get benched. He might get limited minutes. City has Alvarez as well. I know Alvarez is different, maybe a slightly different kind of a player, but Alvarez could also play in that role. City could probably change structure, change shape, and maybe play with a false nine with maybe Foden playing in the center. You might have KDB playing up top. I mean, things could happen there, right? So, but yeah, Haaland to Kane could be an option, especially when the UCL kicks in. Haaland or Salah, who to captain, both have home fixtures, can go either way. I think it's close, especially for me. It's Haaland slightly, just because of the fact that he has a slightly easier fixture. Crystal Palace are definitely a slightly stronger team in defense. So yeah, I'll probably go Haaland. It's just how Man City would probably try to play alongside Haaland, right? And try to play to his strengths. I think to me that's it's probably enough to kind of tilt a little bit towards Haaland, and I think that's where I'll definitely be. I heard there was a fight between Gerrard and Mings in the dressing room. Not quite sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, there are definite problems going in that Villa camp. A lot has been said about locker room and dressing room bust ups and all of that stuff. But yeah, I mean, a lot. This actually could be a very vital stage for Gerrard, right? Because he probably has to start strong. If he really has a poor start, I think he'll be under a lot of pressure because there are question marks in Gerrard as a manager. So let's see. Tempted to start Pereira over Bailey. Go for it. I personally would still go Bailey, but yeah, if you feel that Fulham, I just feel that Bailey's probably gonna be in a slightly more advanced position. I mean, there are chances that if Aston Villa if they don't change the structure, if they don't go too up top, I think if they do, then Bailey's definitely not gonna start. But if they don't, I think Bailey has the potential to outscore Pereira. I know Pereira is on set pieces, which is going to be a big advantage as compared to a Bailey. But yeah, I mean, it's not very one sided. So even if you go Andres Pereira, it won't be a wrong decision. But personally, for me, I think Bailey again, like the captaincy this week, right? I don't think so. There's a lot to choose between captaincy. Similarly, there's not a lot to choose between these two options. It's probably 55-45, right? For me, in terms of favoring Bailey. But yeah, I mean, if you feel that Pereira's probably gonna get something from set pieces, Wolves are probably a little bit shaky in defense. Why not take a chance? What's the route to Nunez? I think my route to Nunez probably gonna be a Robertson downgrade, going for a cheaper option, maybe a 5 million, maybe even cheaper. I have point 0.5 or point, yeah, I think I have point 0.5 in the bank. So one option is to downgrade Robertson to a very cheap uh, defender, maybe a 4.5 million defender. That way I'll save 2.5 million. I'll see first if I can probably change around Jesus. I mean, it doesn't mean that if Jesus has a high ownership, I have to start him or keep in my team. I think I can if it looks like Jesus probably not the FPL asset that everybody thought he will be. I mean, I can move from Jesus to Nunez a lot earlier than everybody else. I remember last season I did this mistake of holding Antonio for a very long time because he started really well, and I probably won't repeat that mistake again this time. So we'll see. I think Jesus to Nunez is a slightly easier route, but then it becomes a bit tricky, right? Because I probably have to either downgrade Mount to a very cheap attacker, maybe a 5 million attacker. There I'll probably get 3 million, and then again a downgrade from a Robertson to maybe a 5 million defender. I'll probably have about 4.5 5 million, and then I can probably upgrade my third striker, which is planned 4.5 million to a 9 million Nunez. So yeah, that could be an option as well. I have some money in the bank, so there is some flexibility there, but it probably will be either upgrading Jesus to a Nunez or maybe downgrading a Mount and a Robertson to a Darwin Nunez. Again, if is that really good for the overall structure, overall balance of the team? Right now, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, those are definitely two routes that I can go for. Aronson or Neto. I like the Leeds options a lot this week, and I don't mind starting Aronson over Neto. I think Leeds are probably going to do better because Southampton have looked really shaky in defense, right? And there are chances that Southampton might be a very leaky defense, and Leeds are a good attacking sides, and they have some decent attackers in there. And Aronson has looked really good. I mean, he's a lot of value at 5.5 million, so why not? I think Aronson. I personally prefer Aronson at the moment. Again, we've just seen 1 week. We've hardly seen any preseason. Donato really looked at good at preseason. Aronson, he's still kind of settling into the team, but yeah, could be a decent option. I don't see Wolves, and I could be wrong, but I don't see Wolves scoring a lot of goals against Fulham. I think Fulham, yeah, they're definitely going to be a lot more attacking than other teams, so that probably will give Wolves a lot of open spaces and chances to score. But yeah, I think Aronson's not a bad shout, considering that he's playing a slightly weaker defense. Trippier or Ben White, who to start? I think both games are going to be a little trickier. I think Trippier is probably the better option, considering that he's on set pieces, considering that he's playing Brighton, who are not notorious scorers. Right? I mean, we don't see Brighton scoring. I mean, they scored a couple of goals against United, but it was United at the end of the day. So I don't know how much to read into that, but yeah, I mean, Leicester, specifically Vardy, has a great record against Arsenal. Arsenal's defense looks a lot stronger with Gabriel and Saliba in the middle. But I mean, Leicester's still a good attack. I mean, they are very susceptible in defense, but I'm still very confident in terms of their attack. So they could still do well. I still feel Trippier is. If this was maybe a Zinchenko, for example, the conversation would have been slightly different, because Zinchenko was also quite attacking, and Leicester's defense is a bit worrying. But I don't see the same goal threat or the same attacking threat, even creativity for that matter, from a Ben White. I don't think so. He's gonna play that advanced, right? I think Trippier is the better one. What would you do, Kane to Haaland now, or if you roll to address cases like a poor Bailey or a nailed Darwin? I mean, it's interesting, right? It's a it's a matter of how much risk are you willing to take. See, the safer players absolutely go Kane to Haaland this week. Uh, Address the Haaland issue first. Uh, he's also a good captaincy option this week. So if you are not very convinced, I mean, Salah is still a good option, but if you have Salah, and if you're not convinced with Salah, Haaland is also a captaincy option. So he gives you that outlet as well, which a Kane might not. Considering that he's probably playing a deeper role. Maybe he's a lot more creative this season than scoring goals. I think Kulusevski and Son are also contributing a lot in terms of attacking threat, and they could be scoring a lot of goals. So it depends. I mean, would you want to take a chance, a slight risk, considering and go against the crowd, considering that everybody's going Haaland and you probably are going Kane at the moment? Haaland could really, really hurt your rank for one game week. But again, I mean, it's just that I personally feel that Kane is going to be outscored by Haaland by a lot. I don't see that difference in maybe a Bailey or a Neto, to be very honest. If I draw that comparison, a Neil Darwin is something very interesting, because if he's gonna, if he does really well, I think you can't really hold him back in terms of starting games. But yeah, I mean, I personally would do the Kane to Haaland move, because I would probably want to stick around. I would not want to take a huge chance, especially in the beginning of the season. And that's generally been my approach. I play a little bit safer in the beginning. I play, I don't really go against the crowd. It's not that I do what others are doing. Absolutely not. But I still am not a huge or a heavy risk taker early on. I mean, when I see certain patterns, certain players emerging, certain bandwagons emerging, I'll probably jump onto those. But I personally would do Kane to Haaland and just be safe there. But yeah, the Darwin situation is very interesting. I don't think so. There's a huge upside with the Bailey to a Neto or a Bailey to a 5.5 or a 6 million midfielder at the moment. Again, things could change, but Kane to Haaland could be massive. I still want Captain Salah over Haaland. I don't know why. I mean, it's not wrong, right? It's a very close call. Even if you want to captain Salah and you end up captaining him, even if he blanks, I mean, with the whole narrative going on that he blanks in game week 2, it's still a good fixture for Salah, right? So yeah, if you go Salah over Haaland, it's not wrong, to be very honest. You prefer Sa- you prefer start you prefer to start Pereira or Trippier? Trippier got Brighton away, might be tough. I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's a tougher fixture for Trippier, no doubt about that. Pereira is definitely going to play in a much more attacking role, advanced role. So probably Pereira is the optimal option. But Newcastle's defense is quite decent, right? So you can cover that off with a clean sheet as well. It's gonna be a bit trickier, but I generally like to play the attackers over a defender, unless it's a Robertson or a Trent, or something like a James, or even a Perisic, if we see that Perisic is getting a lot of starts. So yeah, I think for me, I think Pereira would still be a slightly better pick. Darwin, Haaland, Kane, my front three. Feel the fear. And yeah, I I'm I am actually a bit fearful with that front three, but I would be really interested to see your entire team. I think getting in Darwin, Haaland, and Kane, I think that's gonna significantly impact or hamper your other picks. I mean, I could be wrong, But yeah, I think if you want to go very heavy in terms of forwards, yes, they're really, really good options. But I think the balance of the overall team kind of takes a hit. And it's a balancing act at the end of the day. Of course, you can have all heavy hitters, but if you don't have a good collated squad, I think you're going to struggle in FPL. But yeah, it's too early to say any of that. I mean, why not? Why not take a chance and go for all the nicer picks that probably everybody is trying to get into your teams and making calculations in terms of what to do and all of that stuff. But yeah, could work out. Hold Rashford this week or take a -4 and take Harrison. Won't take a hit, especially for a Harrison. Harrison, I won't take a hit. Neto, Jorginho, some no. I mean, it's too early to kind of jump onto a 5-6 million option. Another option, if let's say if you have a Bailey or if you have a Neto already, but I would still hold Rashford. I know that in my, I mean, if it was for no hits, I think I should have been okay, because in my players to sell video, Rashford was one of the players that I wanted to sell. But if it's for a hit, I'm just not too sure, because I don't see any of these options being the standout pick, having a great fixture and they're getting double digit hauls. They can still end up getting a double digit haul. Maybe Jorginho gets a couple of penalties, maybe one penalty. Anything can happen, right? But yeah, if it's for a hit, I won't take out Rashford. Is it too early to transfer out Coutinho for next game week? I think you can keep him for this week for sure. Next week, yeah, I mean, he's 7 million. You could probably go cheaper to a Martinelli. You could probably go cheaper to a Leeds option if you feel that Leeds are now coming up and there could be some attacking options in the Leeds team. I don't think so. It's too early to take him out next week. I think if you're taking him out this week, yeah, I mean, I can still understand why one would think that, yeah, this week I can play Coutinho because he has a decent fixture. So yeah, next week, yeah, see Coutinho if he's not doing well, if you think that there are better options coming up, if you feel that you could probably go elsewhere, save a little bit money. Yeah, why not take that chance? What James Robertson, Walker, Weltman, Salah captain, Martinelli, Neto, Darwin, Haaland, Kane. Oh my God! I mean, yeah, James Robertson really good. I mean, slight concern here is no Cancelo, but yeah, a lot of people are saying that if you have Walker, I think you have covered Cancelo. Personally, I don't believe that. I still feel Cancelo is a much better option. I mean, we saw that he didn't get anything in terms of attacking returns, and he still ended up with a couple of bonus points, right? And it's interesting to see that change, or that change of structure, change of formation. I mean, it's not really a change of formation, to be very, very honest, but I mean, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how Pep plays with those fullbacks, because they're almost playing an inverted role. They're kind of coming in, and players like Foden and Mahrez, or maybe Foden or Grealish or Mahrez, they would be maintaining a lot of the width on the football field, right? So whether that impacts these fullbacks attacking potential, could happen, absolutely. But yeah, till the time Walker's covering off that clean sheet and Cancelo doesn't really do anything, I think you should be okay. Salah is decent. Darwin, Haaland, Kane. I mean, it's a good team. It's not a bad team. Martin and Neto are also good options. Yeah, I mean, Veltman is probably the only pick that I'm not 100% convinced with, but I don't think so. It's a bad team, very honestly. I'm kind of scared in terms of that trio could be really, really good. Darwin, Haaland, and Kane. Of course, Kane has a tougher fixture this week. He doesn't have a great record against Chelsea. He might play in a little bit deeper role, but all that could change if he gets a couple of goals and maybe gets a hat trick, right? I think then a lot of people will start having the dilemma of what to do with Kane now, because Kane has started scoring. Let's see. But good team, good team. I like it. Hey Shan, hello to you. That's okay, no problem. I'll captain Haaland because of the ownership, because I have a feeling that Salah will outscore Haaland. Could happen if he's lesser owned by, or if his effective ownership is a lot lesser. I think definitely feel it's going to be more than 100%. So you'll end up losing points. But if it's not very high, then I think the loss is not going to be very high, because a lot of people would already have Salah, right? So let's see. Probably Edison, James, Trippier, Robertson, Cancelo, Martinelli, Salah, Diaz, Bailey, Jesus, Haaland. Any changes recommended? Not really, to be honest. I think it's a good team for this week. Salah, Diaz, keep that combination. Check what's happening with Diaz and Nunez. Let's say if Nunez gets a start, I think it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Diaz, right? does his position kind of gets hampered because Darwin would kind of maintain that center spot. He will get a lot of those chances. What happens to Salah as well? I think it's not worth taking out anyone from this team, and maybe just save that transfer, get more information, have two frees next week. If you feel that something has really come off and you probably want to jump on it, I mean a couple of changes and you can easily get there. So I'll probably just keep it as is. I mean, not having Trent but having Robertson kind of covers that. But yeah, I mean it's okay. 3-5-2, Mendy, James, Walker. So Mendy, James double up in the Chelsea defense. Walker, Trent, Pereira, Mount, Coutinho, Martinelli, Salah, Jesus, Haaland. Um, no changes to be honest. I think it's a good to go team. Yeah, not much to change here. Again, as I said earlier, get more information, get more understanding, see the games, follow us on Instagram, and follow the updates that we'll be posting, because we are doing these threads, and we are doing these updates where we talk about our key takeaways from the games, from a footballing perspective, from an FPL perspective. So I think that's going to be very interesting. So check out that as well. See the games for yourself as well. I think because nothing better than watching the games for yourself. And yeah, and then probably take a call. I think it's too early to jump on conclusions already. Of course, a lot of people did that Kane to Haaland move. That could still be a wrong play. I mean, I know a lot of people have that confidence in Haaland, and me myself included, in terms of how City is gonna play, and what's that structure gonna be. And Haaland's probably gonna get a lot of chances, but yeah, only time will tell that. But other than that, I don't think so. There are any patterns or any transfers emerging. I understand a lot of people have gone for players like Zinchenko, Kulisevsky, but I think they're more knee jerk reactions than anything, because Kulisevsky, yes, this week, I mean, Kulisevsky could still do well. I mean, he's still a decent pick, but it might not be the optimal play to go for the Kulisevsky this week against Chelsea. Similarly, Zinchenko, we don't know where Zinchenko is gonna play, because Tierney's back, and I think against the slightly tougher oppositions, I still feel Tierney's probably gonna play, because I genuinely believe that Tierney is a much better defender than a Zinchenko, because Zinchenko was struggling against the Palace team. I mean, Palace were really attacking Zinchenko's side, and that I think that's why he was kind of taken off. So it was not a it was not an injury. Of course, it was not something that was probably not planned. I think after seeing what was happening on that side, and I think Zinchenko was taken off. So let's see. I think that could be an interesting play. But yeah, thank you so much, Lukman. I hope I've not massacred that name. And appreciate you joining the stream, of course, and happy to help and happy to answer all your questions. Trippier or Pereira? Slightly Pereira. But again, it's one of those decisions like a Bailey or a Pereira, for example, right? It's not very straightforward or very easy. I mean, you can make points for both sides, for both players, but personally for me, and if you followed me last year as well, I always preferred the attacker, even if it's a tough fixture or a slightly trickier fixture. I would always try to get that attacker in my team. Start with that player, whether it's a midfielder, whether it's somebody like a Mount, etc. Right? So yeah, I'll probably play Pereira, but if you go Trippier, you won't be wrong. I mean, it's quite a close call, but personally for me, it's Pereira. Darwin Salah partnership on the pitch looks. I mean, so far it is. It is definitely time to see Nunez in the 11 and then understand in a lot better way in terms of what's happening. So let's see what happens there. But yeah, I think super excited to see that partnership, to see what happens to Diaz. I think it'll also be interesting to see what is happening with the fullbacks as well. Because as soon as Darwin Nunes came on the pitch, I mean, Robertson was also not that advanced, right? So these are certain things that we should probably look out for in terms of, identifying patterns, identifying structures, identifying different plays, and then probably take a call. Let's see. Would you bring in Nunes if he explodes this week? So I discussed about my routes to Nunes a little earlier. It's either going to be a Jesus upgrade to a Nunes. Right now I don't have enough money, but I'll have to downgrade somewhere. I mean, Robertson to James, and then Jesus to Nunes could be an option. I'm not very against it, to be very honest. But if he does really well, if he starts this game next week is against United, so maybe not against United, I'll probably still Give him one more week. But if he really, really goes big, right, and if we see that there's a significant difference in Liverpool's performance when Nunez is probably starting or probably playing majority minutes. I mean, I think there's going to be a bandwagon emerging there, and I think before we start taking losses from that move, I mean, yeah, with a couple of free transfers, I won't be really taking any hits, so not a bad move. Going against Jesus could be tricky because fixtures are still good for Arsenal. They've looked okay in attack. He's also looked quite sharp. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a close call. The other thing is that I probably downgrade something like a Mount, go even cheaper in midfield, but that just it just is doesn't sit right in terms of the balance of the team, and I think yeah, that's gonna be a challenge. I think. Ramsdale, Trent, Robertson, Cancelo, James, Martinelli, Salah, Neto, Bailey, Haaland, Jesus. Any updates on this team? Not really. I think it's a good team. You stay with it, stick with it, and see one more week of information, get some idea, and then probably take some calls next week. Thoughts on Damskar? I think Damskar is going to be an interesting option. Could be a replacement for Neto as well. I mean, yeah, why not? Brentford have decent fixtures. They have Fulham, Everton, Palace, Leeds, Southampton after this. So they have a good run of fixtures. I know a lot of people probably would have gotten Da Silva or probably, are thinking of getting in Da Silva. I think it'll be interesting to see. I don't think so. Damsgaard probably starts this one. Maybe he comes off the bench. But yeah, I mean, I personally feel that Damsgaard is going to be a much better option than Da Silva. And that dream of having a additional 4.5 million option might not come true. Could be an option. Not totally against it. If we see that the likes of Neto, Bailey, even the Leeds midfielders, if they are not really any breakout players from that list or those crop of players, and if Damsgaard is doing really well, why not? I mean, he fixtures are good. Brentford are okay in attack. I mean, we don't see Brentford scoring 4-5 goals, of course, but yeah, I mean they could still do well in attack. They would be missing some creativity, and I think it'll be interesting to see if Damsgaard can provide that, considering that they don't have a creative midfielder like an Ericsson this year. So I think yeah, one to wait and see and wait and watch, keep a close eye on, and probably take a call after that. Tottenham scored 4 goals and Kane can't get involved in single goal. People are frustrated and they're going for Haaland, Kulusevski. But Kane is Kane. Hope he scores a brace as Chelsea defense might suffer. I mean, and not very against in terms of what you're saying, but I just feel Stanford Bridge is a tough place to visit, right? It still is. Chelsea are okay. I mean, I still feel they're much better defensively at the moment in terms of what they're doing in attack. I still feel there are a lot of clueless aspects of what Tuchel is probably going to do in the Chelsea attack, considering that they don't have really any standout options anymore. They're pretty rigid in terms of the attacking structure that they have in the team. I know that Tottenham is doesn't have a great record at the bridge as well. They've not won in a considerable time. Kane doesn't have a great record against Chelsea. I think this game is, of course, there are a lot of knee jerk reactions as well to the Kane to Haaland move because the switch was massive, and people with Kane and not Haaland in the team, they are. I mean, I've hardly seen any teams with a rank of 1 million or so, right? I mean, they've already gone far a lot, gone a little bit too far, and people are kind of now seeing that it might be difficult to kind of come back. So let's get onto the Haaland move as soon as possible. But I think this game will be interesting to see because it'll give us an idea if Kane is actually sitting very deep again because we've seen patterns of play last season as well where Kane was dropping a lot deeper and he was, getting the ball in very deep spaces, then trying to play those balls to a Son or a Kulusevski, which really aggravates their attacking returns, right? And Kane suddenly becomes a more creative player than a goal scorer. And we've seen last season that Son is also there to score goals. I mean, yes, we've seen that partnership of Kane and Son playing really well, playing out really really well. But I think this season, especially in the first game, there was this moment where Kane, should have probably gotten that ball from Son, and Son should have passed, but he didn't. He took that shot. So, I mean, there is inclination that Kane is probably going to be a more creative player this year, and probably Son is going to take more chances, and he's probably going to try to shoot a lot more. Kulisevsky is also somebody who's probably getting on those lines because he's also shooting a lot more. He's also trying to score a lot more than creating this season. It could change and could be very opposition specific, but yeah, I mean, I personally don't see Chelsea's defense conceding 3 or 4 goals, of course. So Let's see. If Kane scores a brace and looks after two fixtures of Tottenham, people, I mean, yeah, that's what happens in FPL, right? It's a very reactive game. So if Haaland blanks for a couple of weeks and Kane scores, then people will start going to Kane and probably not keep Haaland. But that's just FPL things. Going for a 3-5-2, it could really go bad. Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's probably the right play to have a little bit more money in your defense and probably have a stronger defense, a much more invested defense right now, because you have a double up in Liverpool. You can even go for options in the in Man City as a double up with Cancelo or Walker, or Cancelo or Diaz or Walker. So there are options that you can target there. So yeah, going a bit lighter in defense is probably a risky proposition, and it also depends on which midfielders you have, right, in those five options. I'm assuming the front two would probably be Haaland and Jesus. So yeah, I think could be risky, but I mean, it's too early to talk about structures at the moment. I think we still have a lot more to see before we take that call. Bailey plus Damsgaard Da Silva or Neto plus Damsgaard Da Silva next game week. Too early to say again. Haven't seen Damsgaard at all in Premier League, of course, for a reason. I won't jump on both of them just yet. I'll probably see. Right now, we have hardly seen anything, right? So, too early to say that. But if Damsgaard looks well, then probably Bailey plus Damsgaard. Uh, Neto plus Damsgaard probably would be a better option because Wolves have better fixtures. Bailey might lose his place. If Gerrard plays a two up top with Ings and Watkins, I don't think so. Bailey has a place in that 11. Um, so yeah, I think let's see. Could I mean we still have to see, but I think Neto plus Damsgaard could be a very interesting combination. Andres Pereira, Matty Cash. I think it's Pereira. Villa were looking. I mean, yeah, Villa were looking shaky in defense. Not very convinced still with the Villa defense. I still feel Lucas Dean is the better fullback right now. I think he looks a lot more creative. He can deliver the cross that you probably would expect from a fullback. He probably would be on set pieces as well. I think he's probably the better play. And if I am looking for one option here, I'll probably play Pereira. I mean, Pereira looked really good against Liverpool, but yeah, I mean, I guess same logic, right? Against teams who probably sit a lot deeper because Liverpool weren't really sitting. I mean, they were made to defend a lot, but they weren't really sitting very deep in the game, right? They were trying to go on the offensive, trying to attack Fulham, and maybe against the weaker oppositions, you're not gonna get that. So I think that's something to look out for. But I think Pereira, yeah, I think if I have an option or a choice between these two, I'll definitely go Pereira. I kind of miss the old red graphics. I think these graphics they look pretty decent, but yeah, I mean, we're trying to kind of progress towards doing better stuff. And yeah, I mean, do let me know if you like these graphics more or the older ones more. I personally like these a lot more, but yeah. Luis Diaz or Kulisevsky. This week it's Luis Diaz. Long term, it might be Kulisevsky. But yeah, if this week is an option, definitely Luis Diaz. If you have Kulusevski, don't transfer Kulusevski out to Luis Diaz. Keep Kulusevski. But on the other hand, if you have Diaz, you keep Diaz and you don't transfer in Kulusevski, who could be a much better option next week. Who can be a good Trippier replacement for 5 million? Already have triple pool and Arsenal. I think 5 million when we're looking at defender options. I mean, Arsenal, yes, Arsenal and Pool could have been decent picks, but I mean, Walker could be an option if you don't already have somebody like an Edison, Cancelo, and Haaland, for example. If you have one spot available, going double three defense right now when we don't have a lot of certainty in terms of what's going to happen in that Man City attack. I mean, a lot could change, right? We might just get on to the Mahrez train next week if Mahrez comes off the bench or maybe starts and gets a 15-20 point haul. I mean, that can absolutely happen, right? It's just that I think Walker is probably a really good option. I think Trippier also, if you have that Trippier Pereira combination where you can play Pereira in game week 3 and game week 5, I don't think so. Trippier is a bad option, to be very honest. I think there is a lot of potential there. Yes, with Walker, you're going to get definitely more clean sheets, but Trippier has that odd goal in him. He will be on set pieces. Walker, if Pep plays, Walker as that inverted wing back, which he did in the first game, I think I think it'll probably be interesting. I don't think so it'll really affect his attacking returns because I don't think so he's gonna get a lot of attacking returns in the first place. But yeah, at 5 million, he could be a decent option. I mean, it's too early to say that somebody like a Royal, for example, or a Doherty. I think Doherty has gone low down in price, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, I mean, they could be options as well. But it's just very tricky to go for a Spurs, attacking wing back at the moment. You have Doherty and Perisic, who are probably better players. Just outright quality, they might be better players. But if Sessegnon and Royal are playing well, then Conte is probably going to stick with them for some time at least, right? Wait for that odd game where one of them really performs badly, and or maybe if he wants to give a lot, maybe some more match practice and match time to somebody like a Perisic or a Doherty. They could be options, but I still prefer somebody like a Walker at the moment. Kulusevski might be decent, but what if Richarlison returns? I mean, yeah, that's the tricky part, right? See, right now, again, with 1 week of information, I can absolutely say that Richarlison is not gonna come back into the team. But I'll be a fool to kind of make that assessment just after 1 week, right? It looks like that Kulusevski is gonna fight tooth and nail to keep that spot, and at least in the beginning, with that five substitution rule, we've seen that Kulusevski, even last season, right? He was not lasting for 90 minutes. I mean, he was getting substituted around that 75th minute mark. And it could be a possibility considering that now Richarlison's available. I think Richarlison will feature. I don't think so. He's gone to Tottenham to sit on the bench for most times. But yeah, that this is that doubt that kind of creeps into your mind when you're going for a Kulusevski next week. If does he really, really play all the games? The kind of form that he's showing, I mean, his attacking numbers since he's come into the Premier League, they have been really, really good. He's also been a great FPL asset, a very valuable FPL asset. But yeah, I mean that issue is still there, and I think it's gonna be there for some time unless Richardson really plays poorly, or Kulusevski is really smashing it week in week out, and then it'll be difficult for Conte to take out Kulusevski. But yeah, I mean that risk is there. Will you play Neto, Bailey, and Pereira, all of them in your playing 11 this week? Preferably not. I mean, Neto, Bailey, and Andres Pereira. Maybe if you come, you also have Trippier. Maybe you're benching Trippier. I'll probably bench. Let's say if that's a possibility, then I'll probably bench one of Bailey or Pereira. I'll probably play Neto. But if you don't have any better options, look at your bench. If you have better options, maybe you play one of those options. But if this is the best combination you have, why not? I mean, all three of them have decent fixtures. They're not ideal because they're still. I mean, all three are still a shot in the dark, right? None of them are a proven FPL asset. None of them were really, like striking it out of the park last season. They've shown decent shades of performance in game week 1, but yeah, it is a bit light in midfield for sure. If you had 10.5 million and you had to get a mid and a defender, who would you get? Depends. I mean, there are multiple ways you can look at this. I mean, I don't know what the context here, but I mean, a 6 million defender and a 4.5 million midfielder could be an option. You could do the other, you could go the other way where you split those funds. You go, 5 million in defense, maybe a Zinchenko, for example, maybe a Trippier, for example. So you have options there. Maybe right now, maybe a Saliba is looking a slight better option than a Gabriel, for example, because he's slightly cheaper in price. And there's not really a huge difference in terms of, the attacking threat from set pieces or goals or corners, etc. That you can see right now. So there are different ways to go about it. You can go slightly heavier in defense and then maybe a cheaper option in midfield. You can even go for a 50-50 kind of a split where you go for a 5 million defender and then 5.5 as your Aronsons and maybe a Neto, for example. So depends. Who to bench between James, Gabriel, Bailey, and Neto? If I had to bench one, I'll probably bench Bailey out of all these three options. I think James, Gabriel, Neto. James has really, really good attacking potential. I know he's playing Tottenham. I know Tottenham can score, so you might lose the clean sheet. But I just feel James can still. I mean, last time around in game week 1, we saw him taking 13 corners, right? Nobody expected that. Of course, all of those corners were quite crap, but the fact that he's on set pieces, I think that's going to be a huge bonus, and it'll really help him with bonus points as well. He can get the assist or the odd assist from a set piece as well. Let's see if he stays on them or not. But I mean, he's a good pick, absolutely. Um, Gabriel has decent. He has decent goal threat. I mean, you could still say Gabriel's probably closer. If you want to target an attacker here, you probably uh, bench Gabriel. But yeah, I mean, I'm okay playing Gabriel. I know Leicester are good attack, but if you feel that Arsenal are at a more risk than somebody else in terms of losing that clean sheet, maybe you bench Gabriel, you play James, Bailey, and Neto if you're favoring the attacker. I know I said that I favor the attacker, but Gabriel is also playing for a premium team, right? Yeah. So personally, for me, I'm not changing anything. Of course, I have Pereira, etc. So my case is a little different, but yeah, I think I would probably do Bailey on the bench, but Gabriel also could be an option if you feel that Arsenal's probably going to lose the clean sheet. What's your point at game week one? Mount seems lost in the first game. Hope you get a good score. My point, if you meant what were my points was 70 in game week one. I had a rank of 1.3 million. Yeah, 70 points and 1.37 million. Hoping that it gets better this week. Mount looked off. In fact, the whole Chelsea attack looked pretty off. Didn't expect Sterling to start in the center. Was expecting him to play on the left, Havertz as probably in that number 9 role, and Mount on the right. If that was the structure that Tuchel was going for, they just look lost, right? And I think there needs to be a lot, or Tuchel has to work a lot in terms of Chelsea's attack, in terms of getting those goals because they don't have a striker right now who can get them 20 goals a season, right? Uh, so yeah, I think that's going to be very interesting to see, especially against trickier oppositions. I mean, even against oppositions where like an Everton, right, who probably would sit back and defend a lot for maybe majority of the game. I think Chelsea could find it tricky and difficult to break them down. So I'm hoping things can change and things might change this week because we might see something else from Chelsea. I mean, of course, they would also have 1 week of insight or one game insight, right? Like us FPL managers, these teams will also reflect upon what happened in the last week, in the last fixture. What were the mistakes or what were the things that they will probably improve on? And of course, keeping in mind the next opposition or the new opposition that they're facing, right? So I'm expecting things to be a little better for Chelsea. Whether Mount, really becomes a great option or a bad option, let's hope I'm on the right side of it and he becomes a great option. But yeah, if he doesn't, then I have options that I can go for. The new graphics are obviously superb, and the red one. I mean, yeah, the red one will always be a classic. Of course, a lot of nostalgia, a lot of feelings. When we shifted from these new creatives and new stuff, because of course we are now moving into a new direction. We are growing as well. And by the way, guys, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please make sure that you do that. We do streams. We've done content every day last week. Of course, there will be a lot more content coming throughout the season. So if you've not subscribed to the channel, do that. We also are a very active community on Instagram as well. So if you've not followed us on Instagram, please make sure that you do that as well. We do daily FPL content there as well. I mean, there's a lot of information that will help you in your game week decisions. And I think it'll be really interesting to hear your voice in the community as well. Um, who to bench, Dallo or Bailey? I mean, I would probably bench Dallo, considering that Brentford are a decent attack. I mean, they aren't a team who don't score goals. There are options in Brentford who could score. United don't really look like a very cohesive unit at the moment. I mean, the partnership between Maguire and Martinez also looks a bit dodgy at the moment. So yeah, I think, and plus, I don't think so. Dallo has a lot of it. I mean, yes, people talk about his attacking potential, but his numbers were quite average last season as well. He didn't really get any attacking returns, to be very honest. So I think Bailey is definitely the better option. Road to 2K soon, absolutely, guys. Help us get to 2K. Let's get to 2K very, very soon. It'll be really, really cool. If you had to play two this game week, which two would you pick? Neto, James, Bailey? I think it'll be James and Neto. Bailey would be on the bench. I got 60 points, 33 in my mini league, which is, I mean, that's okay. Not a problem. It's just game week one, right? I mean, I know a lot of people would get disheartened by their game week one rank, but is this 1 week? You have 37 more opportunities to do better and probably, end the season on a very high rank. So that's fine. I personally think you should be more active on Twitter. I mean, yeah, I'm actually finding it a little difficult to be very, very active on. I mean, I'm not a very of course I'm doing this, which is a very different proposition. But I'm in my personal life, I'm not a very sociable person, right? So it still becomes a little trickier to get to Twitter and keep tweeting about stuff. I'm trying to get to that habit, but yeah, I think definitely there needs to be there are things that I can definitely do on Twitter, and I would be trying my best to do those. Are you considering any Newcastle players? Yes, I think so. I think Wilson is a good shout if you have that amount of money. Let's say if you have a decent amount for maybe a second or a third striker. If you don't have a Jesus, for example, maybe you have Jesus, Haaland, and the third striker spot. I think Wilson is a good option. The only problem with the Wilson is that there are chances that he gets injured a lot, right? He always starts the season very strongly, but then he has these niggles and he has these injuries. Of course, with the five substitution rule, I think that probably is going to change. But yeah, I mean, if you can manage those game week 3 and game week 5 fixtures, I think I think there is a chance that you can get Wilson, because if Newcastle are going to be good in attack, I think Wilson will be that main source of getting those goals. Uh, of course, with a Wilson as well, you can probably even wait because you have defenses like Man City and attacks like Man City and Liverpool who are probably going to score against a Newcastle team. Having said that, Newcastle is still decent, a lot stronger defense than last season, right? So looking at Wilson for sure, definitely on the watch list. I mean, one of their midfielders, Trippier as well. I mean, I don't have Trippier. A lot of people have gone for Trippier. So if you went for him and with him, I think fair play there. I mean, Shar, of course, I know he scored that great goal, but how often is that going to happen, right? Not sure there, but definitely Trippier, Wilson, maybe one of their mids as well, right? There could be some value in their midfielders because we have players like Almiron, Willock, Bruno Guimaraes, Joe Linton as well, who's probably going to continue playing in midfield for Newcastle. So looking at these few options, especially when they have decent fixtures after game week 5. I think that is when I probably make a play for at least one, if not more, Newcastle options. I think that move could be for Trippier as well, where we kind of take out Gabriel, or let's say by the time we have maybe a slight change in structure, we can even have Gabriel and Trippier together. Lots of combinations can happen, but let's see. Thoughts on Cucurella? I think he will. I mean, there's a high chance that he will start taking off minutes from Chilwell consistently. There's also a chance that maybe against tougher oppositions he plays as a centre back with, you know, Koulibaly, Silva, and Cucurella playing as on the left side, or as the left side centre back. So I think he will get minutes. Now whether that is as a centre back or as a I don't think so. He's gonna play right wing back because I think James is pretty set there. If he can maintain his fitness, I think James. I don't think so. He will take off minutes from James. There's a high chance of that happening on the other wing, where he can probably start taking off minutes from Chilwell. Maybe in the next couple of weeks, we probably start seeing him take off more minutes, or we might even see him start in a particular game, right? So it's still a wait and watch on Cucurella and the Chilwell situation. I still want to see what happens there. I still want to see which are the three players which are playing. If Chelsea are playing a back three with those two, wing backs, I would still want to see which are the three centre backs that are playing. I'm assuming it's probably going most of the games. It's probably going to be Aspilicueta, Silva, and Koulibaly, and it'll be probably one of Chilwell and Cucurella who's starting on that left side with James starting on the right. I think that's probably going to be the structure. But yeah, it's a wait and watch on both him and Chilwell because I think there's definitely rotation there. I think Aaron Van Bissaka will play. I mean, Van Bissaka is definitely a better defender. Now, is he a better attacking defender? I'm not sure. Uh, do we need somebody who can provide us that threat from an attacking perspective? Absolutely yes. Will that come from with Van Bissaka? I'm not sure still. I mean, there could be a chance that Van Bissaka gets a couple of starts and gets a few games, and then maybe Ten Hag kind of takes that call in terms of which one to go for. But I just feel in the slightly more defensive games where we're probably sitting back and defending a lot, of there might be a lot of threat in terms of the opposition attack. I think in those kind of games maybe you get somebody like a Van Bissaka who starts, but maybe against a Brentford I still feel Dallo is the one who probably get a start. I'm thinking about selling Trippier. Should I do it? I don't think so. I don't think so. This is the week to sell Trippier. You keep Trippier and you hope for the best. Thinking of selling Bailey soon. I mean, Bailey is definitely one option, and I'm also kind of considering in terms of selling. Um, and I've spoken about the option that I can go for. Newcastle players, Leeds players, maybe a Neto or a Podence as well, whichever is probably the slightly better option. Dewsbury Hall, maybe not much at the moment, but yeah. It also depends on how Bailey and Villa perform, right? If Bailey is okay, if he's sticking along well, because see, it's very important to kind of cater to your expectations, because Bailey is not somebody who's going to give you 10, 12 points every week, right? Otherwise he would have been a 10 million or a 12 million asset. He's a 5 million player, so you have to temper your expectations. There might be some returns, or there might be some really good games from Bailey, but he will also tend to blank a lot. So let's see. It also depends on the overall information that we can get out from the game, right? In terms of whether he's probably going to start, etc. So I think let's see. 15 more minutes, guys. Now I think 10 or 12 minutes. Make sure that you save your teams, make your transfers, choose your right captaincy, or the captain pick that you're going for. Because again, we've seen in the past that the servers, etc., can go down at any moment. So don't leave yourself exposed to that situation. Hoping for a Pep masterclass again. Let's hope that. Very excited to see Haaland again. Very excited to see Salah. Hoping that Nunez starts so that we can make things a lot more spicier from a football perspective and an FPL perspective. Who will get more points overall? I think Pope or Henderson will get more save points as compared to Raya or Ramsdale. I think Henderson will get a lot of save points. Pope, I mean, yeah, it's a tough call at the moment. In terms of absolute clean sheet points, I mean, it's going to be quite close. I still feel the Raya and Ramsdale combination is a lot better when we talk about clean sheets. But yeah, just save points, I think it might be very close. It might go either way. I don't see a solution right now, or an easy call right now. I mean, Raya, I know he played a lot lesser last year because he was injured for a long time, but he was also making a lot of saves. We've seen Ramsdale also makes a lot of saves. So yeah, too close to call right now. Any news on Bailey? Rumor is that he might not start. There was a rumor floating around Twitter that he might not start. Um, I mean, there's also a rumor that he might be on the bench. There might be a change in structure, but I think whatever Gerard said in his press conference, I think there's enough to kind of take from that maybe Bailey gets another start. But yeah, if there's a change in structure, he's definitely getting on the bench. But I'll probably just have Bailey and probably start him. I mean, it's not that Pereira is a clear choice, or somebody like a Neto is a clear 10, 15 point. I mean, it's not a guaranteed huge haul, right? So yeah, it's close. I mean, either way, it's fine. Nunez versus Haaland rivalry in the future. Absolutely looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be very, very interesting. I think we're gonna this season. I think we're gonna get a lot of times, or a lot of moments where we're investing a lot much, or a lot more money in attack, rather than defense, or rather than midfield. So I mean, there are chances that there might be a slight change in terms of thinking, in terms of structure, in terms of how we are playing FPL. I think last season the forwards really struggled a lot. This season it might not happen. So let's see. Who do I start? Neko, Williams, Pereira, or Patterson? I'll probably start Andres Pereira out of all the three options. I think he's definitely the most attacking out of the lot. Though Patterson, etc., could also be decent. Even Nico Williams, I think, could be a decent option. I just feel Andres Pereira, being an attacker, maybe is the best option to go for. Diaz is quite differential right now if we consider sure starter. I mean, yes, he is. I mean, I won't really say he's a differential. I know a lot of people have sold him. I know his ownership has also kind of gone down. Still has to be more than 20%. He's 19.7. So yeah, his ownership is definitely coming down because maybe a lot more people are making the switch to a Nunez, for example, right? Might be a decent option. I think it's still too early to say that his attacking potential kind of takes a hit if Nunez is on the pitch. I mean, that could be a possibility, but especially with Jota returning, I think, and if let's say if Nunez really cements his place in the 11, I don't think so. Firmino is gonna get in there. I think Firmino's probably leaving next season as well, but we'll, of course, that's a different proposition. But if Nunez cements his place in the 11, then it'll be very interesting because if Jota comes back, I think it'll be a straight fight, a straight competition between a Jota and a and a Diaz. So then it becomes a bit trickier to evaluate or have Diaz as a pick, because if he's getting shared minutes, I think it's gonna be tricky. Everyone's ignoring Fernandez. I mean, yeah, right now Man United are a huge avoid. But yeah, I really really hope, as a United fan, I hope we do well. I mean, I'm looking forward. I don't want to feel defeated in game week, in the second week of Premier League of a new season, that United are probably gonna be really really bad, or probably just gonna blow it up. Yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. I know it's not a 1 week 1 night solution. It'll take a lot of time, but I just hope we at least take small steps towards improvements, and maybe get to, or at least start moving in that direction in terms of where we are seeing ourselves as a club. Right now, it's just too clueless. Think of playing Pereira over James? No, I think I'll still play James. I mean, the attacking potential that a James can give you, I don't think so. Pereira would match that. Again, it's a bold, maybe a bold prediction so early in the season, but I still feel James is somebody who can score a goal, who can give you an assist. He's gonna be on corners. Yeah, I just feel he's a much better asset than a Pereira, in spite of maybe a threat to the clean sheet. Thoughts on Dennis coming back to Premier League, knowing last season? Yeah, I mean he's coming back to haunt all of us, isn't he? I think if he is that move confirmed, I'm not sure though. If he comes though, he might be a cheaper alternative. There could be options in the Mitrovic, Solanke, Undav category. I think there could be some options there, and I think Dennis could come back to haunt us. Let's just hope that doesn't happen, or he, even if he comes back to the Premier League, we probably can take advantage of him as a player in the right way and not. I still remember that triple captaincy haul for a lot of people. I mean, yeah, it was tough. Took a -4 Perisic to Gabriel and Kane to Haaland. I mean, it's okay if this move was to facilitate the Kane to Haaland move. I think it's okay. It's not bad at all. Dennis is getting his medical done at Forest. Then of course, I think it'll be. What do you think? What price will he be at? Might be around the 6 to 6.5 million, maybe around 6 million. Could be 6.5 as well. I'm not sure. I think he's probably going to be around 6 million. But yeah, I mean, he could be an interesting option, especially Forest also have some decent fixtures. Let's just quickly see there. I mean, not till game week 5, because they have Man City. Then they have a decent run. Bournemouth leads Fulham in the next three. So, I mean, he could be an option, but let's see. 5.5, maybe, yeah. I mean, yeah, Dennis 5.5 makes a lot more sense. So, let's see. Could be an option. Interesting. Will you sell Jesus if he blanks this week too? Not really. I'll probably still give him time till game week 5. Uh, and then probably take a call in terms of what to do with him. I think the fixtures for Arsenal are still good. I think he's still going to be a focal point, in the Arsenal attack, and there are chances that he does well. So I'll probably hold him till game week 5 when he has Aston Villa. 6 is maybe I maybe start looking at different alternatives. So let's see. Most boring game week deadline. I mean, yeah, nothing much to do, right? Don't really have a lot of decisions to take. Yes, the Salah versus Haaland captaincy is probably one close decision, but other than that, I think it's pretty obvious in terms of what everybody's doing. I mean, whatever teams I've seen, majority of them are keeping their transfers. I'm holding my transfer as well. So yeah, I mean, not a very exciting FPL game week. Not feeling interested in the game week. I mean, yeah, I can understand. I can understand why. Great, guys. A couple of more minutes. Please feel free to add any more questions, ask anything at all that you want. We'll stick around for some more time before we call it a day. Just feels weird to end a deadline stream at 3:30 or 4 in the afternoon, because we're so used to getting those late night deadlines, or the night deadlines. It just feels odd, right? Because there's still at least half a day left, and so much can happen. Can Bamford make a comeback this season? I think he can. I think Leeds have looked quite okay in attack. Bamford looked like the shades of the earlier Bamford that we've all seen, that we couldn't see last season because of injuries. I think Rafinha, of course, took a lot of the limelight from Bamford as well. Of course, he was injured as well. This season, under a different manager with a sustained run, there are chances that he could do well and could become an FPL option. It's just currently going, thinking about Bamford in that price range with not a lot of information might be a tricky thing. But yeah, I mean, he could come back and give us something to think about for sure. Ronaldo do something. It's all. I mean, yeah, Ronaldo. I mean, first Ronaldo has to stay at United, right? Let's see. I don't know what's gonna happen there. If Mitrovic scores this week, will you consider take him? I mean, Fulham have a decent run of fixtures coming up. Wolves, Brentford. They have Wolves this week, then Brentford, Arsenal, Brighton, Tottenham, Chelsea. I think probably not right away. I think I'll probably wait till game week 7. And I'll probably target him with that Forest fixture. I don't think so. It'll be too late to get him by that point of time. I guess there could be some price rise, etc. But I mean, it's possible to wait for some more time and then take that call, because I have to generate that 2 million as well, right? For that third, I don't think so. If I'm taking out Jesus, I'll probably want to upgrade to a Darwin Nunes. I would want to, if I'm going for a third attacker, I'll probably upgrade a Planche to a Mitrovic, and for that I need 2 million, right? So I need some more information as well to take that decision. Is there any playing 4.5 million midfielders other than Pereira? I mean, Da Silva was definitely one. Kolbeck is one. I think he could be somebody who will give you, at least appearance points. I mean, there are options, but yeah, not really a lot of FPL options per se. Do you think this year FPL managers will transfer a player in and out a lot quicker than they come to know what the price rises? I mean, yes, a lot of people play like that. They focus a lot on price rises, price falls. They try to build a lot of team value early on in the season, and that could be the optimal play. But I mean, that's just not the only play. But yeah, I think there will be a lot of chopping and changing at least early on, because we will get more information, we will get more idea. I mean, the five substitution rule is the game changer here, right? Because now a lot of people who were probably eyeing certain assets, maybe they were also good from an FPL point of view. They don't look like 90-minute players anymore, right? Especially if the team or if a particular team is really doing well, there are chances that they might come off a lot earlier. So I think yes, there will be a lot of movement in terms of transfers early on, especially till the time we're trying to figure out patterns and certain players who we can keep for a sustained period of time. I think that's probably going to be what it is. Um, Deadline is fast, guys. I hope that you guys were able to save your teams, get your teams in play. All the best for this game week. By the way, I hope you guys have a great game week. If you've made your transfers, absolutely, have faith in your transfers. Be patient. I still believe in patience early on in the season. I think there's a lot more to gain at the moment. There's a lot more to kind of look towards and look forward to. And let's just all have a great game week. I mean, football is back. Another week of football. A lot of things to watch out for. I think it'll be a good game week. I've not seen a manager with Ronaldo in the team in my circle. I mean, of course, going for Ronaldo right now doesn't even look like the right option, right? With United being in a bit of a bother at the moment, with so much happening, behind the scenes, with all that anti-Glazer, scenarios happening, it just doesn't look like a very positive environment, or a positive team at the moment, right? And we don't even know if Ronaldo is staying at United or not. I mean, there's still a chance, a tiny chance, that he might just leave before the deadline or before the transfer window closes. Uh, so yeah, I mean, we still have to see what United does. I mean, Martial was looking like a really good option, but now he got his injury. Otherwise, I think Martial would have gotten those starts ahead of Ronaldo, and then that really suddenly makes Ronaldo a very poor FPL asset, right? Let's see. We're hearing that Watkins and Bundia return to the lineup. I mean, if Bundia and Watkins return to the lineup, then Ings and Bailey are definitely off. But yeah, let's see. Let's see if we get something. Do let me know the source as well, Akshat, if you have the source, do share that as well. Yeah, right now I can't see anything. But yeah, let's see. Great, guys. I think we'll wrap it up here. Any last comments? Any last thoughts? Anything that you want to add? Anything that you want to say? Puna. Yeah, that might. I mean, let's just quickly see his Twitter account. Yeah, it's a reputable. He's tweeted as a reputable Villa page saying that rumors that Mings, Watkins, Bundia, and Coutinho all start with Bailey benched. I mean, let's see. I mean, right now we can't do anything about it, but yeah, I won't be surprised if Bailey's benched, but at the same time, if Bailey starts again, it's probably not going to be a huge surprise because we just don't have enough information to take those calls at the moment. Even if he comes or maybe stays at the bench, if Villa aren't really doing anything, there's a high chance that he comes off the bench and gives us something. So that's also a possibility, but it's fine. If you went with Bailey and if he doesn't start, it's not the end of the world. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Still a long way to go. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, for being with us on the deadline stream. Hit subscribe if you've not done that so far. We'll be doing daily FPL content for the FPL new FPL season, of course. You can follow us on Instagram as well for more FPL updates. Do keep in touch. Of course, you can always reach out to me on Instagram. You can always DM me in case if you want to discuss anything. If you have any doubts, have anything to talk about in terms of FPL, football, or anything at all, please feel free to do that. We will definitely catch up very, very soon. And yeah, all the best for this week. Have a great weekend. Have a great time. Have a great game week. And I'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye bye.